Good morning, everybody. We're live here from the Bird House, and today is Saturday, April 23rd, and it is a big day here at our store because it's Bird Feeder Cleaning Day. If you've ever come into the store during one of our feeder cleaning events, you know that it is a big deal. There's lots going on. We get lots of feeders in. So today, which is Saturday the 23rd, you can drop off your tube feeders for cleaning anytime between now and 3 p.m. We have a whole bunch of people here on hand to clean them up for you. We give you a call when they are all done, and you can pick them up at your convenience. So in the past, we've gotten almost 600 feeders, so we're not sure what to expect. We already have 370 something in today, so we are not sure what to expect, but we'll let you know on Tuesday just how many feeders we did ultimately get in. We've also been getting lots of questions about avian influenza and whether or not it's safe to be feeding the birds and that kind of thing. And we've been keeping an eye on it quite closely. And according to Cornell Lab of Ornithology, they say it's okay to keep your feeders out. That's really affecting waterfowl is a big group of birds that is affected by this, and domestic birds like poultry. So if you have backyard chickens and that kind of thing, they can be affected by it, but it really does not affect the songbirds so much. So far, you are in the clear to keep feeding your birds. So if you have any questions, absolutely, you can put those in the comments. Today, we're going to talk about how you can clean some of your feeders, some new products that have come out this year, and then also share some of your photos. So with it being Bird Feeder Cleaning Day, I thought I would just kind of show you a couple different ways you can clean your bird feeders. So there's so many different types of feeders, and they all come apart in different ways. So when we're doing our feeder cleaning here, the big thing that we do is take the whole feeder apart. So depending on the kind of feeder, that can be quite easy or it can be quite difficult. With the newer feeder designs that are coming out, the designs are very, very easy to clean. So they're made to be able to take apart quite easily, to be taken apart quite easily. So many of them have bases like this that can pop out. So you can easily pop that base out to clean any kind of debris that might be piling up. If you've ever had a tube feeder, you might find that it can get kind of moldy at the bottom over time if moisture gets in there. So having a base that can pop out can be quite helpful for keeping your feeder clean. So that is a really great feature, and many tube feeders now are coming out with things like this. So that's something to look for if you're thinking about replacing some feeders you might have already. So another thing to look for too is you might have a feeder where it's not super clear on how to take it apart. So this is a really popular one by Joel Yankee. This is a classic design that's been around for years and years. It's a finch feeder. And the bottom perch here will actually slide out, and that's what's holding the base in. So it's not super obvious, but if you just slide that out, the base will pop out and you can easily clean it. So what do you clean it with is probably what you're thinking. If you take the feeder all apart and soak it in hot soapy water, that's going to do most of the work for you. So if you fill a basin with hot water and some dish soap, let your feeder soak in it for several minutes, and then you'll want some kind of a bottle brush. So something like this, like we sell these feeder brushes. They're just kind of like a bristly type of bottle brush. You can scrub this, you can scrub the feeder with these kind of things, and that takes care of a lot of the work for you as well. You want to make sure to clean around the holes, the feeding ports. That's where a lot of the birds are, congregating. They're putting their heads in there. So you want to make sure that you scrub those really well. You can also dip it in a light bleach solution. So any kind of a solution that's 1 part bleach to 9 or 10 parts water, you can soak it in there, and that will kill off any remaining kind of bacteria or anything like that that might be still on the feeder. You want to rinse it off really well and let it dry, and then you can put it all back together again. So that's what we do here during our bird feeder cleaning events. So you can absolutely drop your feeder off today if you're interested, or you can try it on your own using those tips and techniques. If you have a feeder that's kind of difficult to take apart, something like maybe a Squirrel Buster feeder, which is a really popular brand that we sell here, they have their own YouTube channel that shows how you can take the whole thing apart. So if you look up Squirrel Buster cleaning, just if you Google it, you'll find a whole bunch of links on how you can do those. So it's really, really helpful, especially when there's a bunch of parts and pieces. So, I will share my screen now and kind of give you an update on some other things happening around. First question is, of course, when are the Orioles coming? And the answer to that is they are on their way. So they should start rolling in around next week. So we always recommend that you have your feeders out by this weekend. So if you don't have your feeders out, now is absolutely the time to do that. You want to make sure that they're nice and clean. You've got your jelly out and oranges. If you're only going to put one thing out at first, you want to make sure you put the jelly out. That will attract the most Orioles. They really like the oranges too. It seems like they like the oranges a lot, especially early on in the season. So they should start rolling in next week. So you want to make sure that you get your feeders out by this weekend, just for maximum results, and we'll let you know as soon as they're reported in the area. This picture here is one of our best-selling Oriole feeders. It is super basic, and it works really, really well. It's just a little orange cup. Then it looks like a flower. The Orioles can perch on the petals here. You put the jelly inside the cup, and you spear the oranges on these little stakes here. So that is really popular, one of our best sellers. And then we also have this one, which I like a lot. And this one's great because it has your built-in weather guard. So you don't have to worry about the rain washing away the jelly or anything like that. And it has 2 cups in it. So you can put jelly in one and mealworms in the other if you want to do mealworms for them, if you want to feed them mealworms. And then, of course, there's these little stakes here that you can use to spear the oranges on. So that one's really nice, especially if you ultimately switch to mealworms later on in the season once the Orioles are nesting and they're not coming to feeders super often. A new product, if we're talking about new products for this year, for Orioles, is this ready-to-use Oriole nectar by the Sweet Seed Company. Now it's available in small pouches and larger pouches. So we had it in bottle form only for a while. Now they came out with some smaller packets and some larger ones as well. So that is new, brand new this year. And many of you use the Oriole nectar, the Sweet Seed, the Sweet Seed Hummingbird nectar, and now it comes in Oriole form as well. So, and then Hummingbirds will roll in around the first week of May. So you want to make sure by next weekend you have your feeders out. So they'll be here shortly. They follow the Orioles by about a week or so. So they're also on their way. We do have some new Hummingbird products as well. You might be familiar with Hummingbird swings. We've carried these before. It's kind of a goofy idea, but they do work. The idea behind the Hummingbird swings is hummingbirds are territorial, so they like to oversee their territory and oversee their feeders. So if you hang one of these around the area of where your feeders are, so they're in sight, the feeders are in sight of wherever this perch is, the hummingbird will sit on the little perch and will kind of defend its territory. There's another hummingbird around, they'll kind of chase it away. So this is something you can hang up in your yard for the hummingbirds to kind of oversee their habitat and their territory. So we've had these kind of regular styles, plain styles. Now we have some more decorative ones too. So we've expanded in our hummingbird swings. They've been really popular. So we got these really fun, funky ones in too, if you want something a little more snazzy for your yard for the hummingbirds. We do have a new feeder. This one's pretty nice if you're looking for something that has a little bit more flair to it. We have this Hummingbird feeder by Nature's Way that has this really nice floral pattern on it. So it makes a good gift for Mother's Day and that kind of thing too. And then this isn't a new product, but we had a lot of issues with getting them last year. So you might have been looking for them, but unsuccessful in getting one. This is super popular here. This is a hummingbird feeder made by the Droll Yankee Company, and it's glass, so it's really good quality, and it's super easy to fill. So you can unscrew the bottom, and you can fill the glass piece. What I like about this is that it's flat here, so you can sit it on a table and it doesn't like flop around. And the hummingbird feeder allows you to put nectar guard tips in it. So if you're familiar with hummingbird feeders that you can get the bee-proof tips for, this one works with those as well. So they're just little rubber tips that go on the inside of your feeder, and it makes it so the bees and wasps can't feed from it. So it has all of those features. So it's been very popular, and we have it back in stock. So if you've been looking for it, we absolutely have it here for you. So those are some of the new hummingbird things and Oriole things. And of course, the ant moat. So you don't want to forget the ant moat. We get questions about that all the time. How do we keep ants out of feeders? Something super simple like this ant moat is all you need. You fill it with water, and then you hang your feeder from it. So the feeder is below, and the ants can't get around the water to get down to the feeder. So really simple, but it works. So consider adding an ant moat if you're having insect issues, and it tends not to be a huge problem early in the season, but as we get on and there's more and more and more insects out there, they can really invade your feeders, especially those bees and wasps. So if you're getting new Oriole feeders or new hummingbird feeders, you might want to consider some that you can put some kind of bee and wasp guards on and get your ant moat. Another thing you can do is hang those fake bald-faced hornets nests around. They look like a big paper lantern, and they will scare away other bees and wasps that might come to feed from the feeder. So that's something else you can do as well. So there's a few things you can do to try to keep those pesky insects away. It's also mason bee time. Mason bees are out and about, so now's the time to get your house out if you don't have one out already, and keep an eye on your house if you do have one out, because they are emerging. They're coming and going from houses pretty often. There's been some birds rolling in, some different kinds of birds. I'll give you some updates on this. This is a brown thrasher. This is a picture from Bob that was sent in last year. I had one of these in my backyard this past week, so this was my big sighting for the week. It was there for probably 20 seconds, but there it was. So you never know what you'll find. Sometimes it seems that just having the feeders up and all that bird activity draws in other birds. I've had a song sparrow hanging out for a while. There's, of course, a whole bunch of house sparrows. And then in the mix flew a brown thrasher for a little bit. So you never know what you might just see in your backyard these days. Blue-gray gnatcatcher are coming back. People are reporting these. Maybe not your most typical backyard bird, but they might pop in as they're migrating through. They're quite small, and they almost look mad all the time. They've got what looks like a furrowed eyebrow here. So really neat little bird that's flowing back into the area. American bittern, people have been reporting. By the wetlands, you can look for them. They blend in very, very well with the cattails. So now is a good time to see them before there's a whole bunch of growth that's happening. Growth in the wetlands there. This picture was sent in by Mark, who saw a golden crown kinglet at Tinker Nature Park. So right now you can find golden crown kinglets, and also ruby crown kinglets are being seen. So there's two different kinglet species that we have here, and they can sometimes be hard to see tops of their heads unless you get the right angle. But we do have the golden crown kinglet and the ruby crown kinglet. So if you don't see this ruby crown on top of the bird's head, they look pretty nondescript. They've got a little bit of yellow wash on their wings, and they have a broken ring here around their eye. So two different kinglet species, small, they bounce around in the trees a lot. You can find both of them here. this right around now. And we're starting to see the first warblers of the season, like yellow-rumped warblers, and this is a picture of one of those. They're sometimes called butterbutts because they have this little yellow patch right there on their rump. So keep an eye out for them. We'll have more warblers rolling in as the weeks go by. But right now, the yellow-rumped warblers are probably going to be the most common one you would find around here. People have been seeing some other types of birds too, like bluebirds. We're getting reports of bluebirds laying their eggs. The females are sitting on the nests. So this is a really exciting time of the year. This picture of a bluebird was sent in by Mark. This picture of a bluebird was sent in by Rich, who had one in his backyard. So lots of bluebird activity going on right now, and they are nesting. We've been getting lots of questions, though, of course, about bluebirds and sparrows, and the sparrows overtaking the bluebird houses. How do you prevent that? And it can be quite difficult. There's a few things that you can do to kind of help. Nothing is 100%, but there's some things you can do, like add an additional house. If you have sparrows going in one house, you can always add an additional one, and the bluebirds will sometimes go into that one. I recommend, if you've got one house up already that the sparrows keep going into, add another house, especially one like this, the sparrow-resistant house. It just doesn't have the specs that the sparrows prefer. It's a shallow nesting cavity, and it has a rectangular opening, and sparrows prefer a circular entrance hole, and they like a deep nesting cavity, and that sparrow-resistant house is quite shallow. It has a rectangular opening. It's just not what the sparrows prefer. Another thing some people have had success with is putting out a bird guardian. If you do have a bluebird house with a circular entrance, you can put one of these on the outside of it. Not only does it keep out predators like squirrels and raccoons, it prevents them from reaching into the nest box and taking out any kind of eggs or nestlings. It creates a longer tunnel going into the house, and sparrows apparently don't like that kind of a feature, but other birds will pop in there just fine. Again, just like everything else, it's not 100%, but it can help keep those sparrows out of the house. And if you are lucky enough to get the bluebirds and they've laid at least one egg, you can put up the sparrow scarer. We do have them now for sale. They are just reflective strips of tape that and they come with a little mount. You screw that into the top of the house, and it drapes the reflective tape over the top of the house, scaring the sparrows away. So the bluebirds won't abandon their nest, but the sparrows will be scared away. You don't want to put it up too early, because if you put it up before there's any kind of eggs in the house, it'll scare everything away. So timing is important with this, but we've heard really good things about these working. So that's a few things that you can do to help with the sparrow and bluebird situation. And then if you have bluebird houses, you might get something else in them besides bluebirds, like these tree swallows. Tree swallows are coming back into the area, and they're another cavity nester. And so they will go into bluebird-sized boxes, so you might just see them as well. Other birds are nesting right now. Chickadees, for example, they are another cavity nester looking for places to go. So now is the time where there's all that competition for different nesting sites. So if you see some birds kind of having a squabble over a nesting site, you might want to add an additional house. It's so you can get more birds nesting all at once. Pileated woodpeckers, all woodpeckers are cavity nesters, so they are starting their nesting behavior as well, which is pretty fun. We had some other photos sent in of some other birds rolling into the area. This is a picture of an eastern towhee that was sent in by Mark. This is a bird that you can sometimes find under your feeders this time of the year. They are in the sparrow family, but they're larger than your typical house sparrow. They tend to be seen on the ground underneath your feeders, and they are rolling back into the area. So this is They do have a very a distinctive song that they sing, and I'll play it for you. Actually, I can do that. They also have that chestnut wash on the side of their body, and they have that red eye, that bright red eye. So this is the eastern towhee, and their call sounds like they're singing "Drink Your Tea." So I'll play this here. So it's drink your tea. So if you hear something that sounds like that, that's going to be your eastern towhee. And it looks like this one is singing its little heart out here in this photo. So really neat photo there of the eastern towhee behavior. And Rich sent in this picture of a red-winged blackbird at his feeder. So if your yard is anything like mine, you're getting an influx of some different blackbirds. We're getting reports of red-winged blackbirds, brown-headed cowbirds. So they are definitely hungry. They're migrating in big numbers, and they're coming to feeders more so than they will throughout the rest of the season. So now's the time to snap some photos of those red-winged blackbirds. And then there's, of course, the sparrows, different types of sparrows. Bob sent in these photos of some different types, like the chipping sparrow, the field sparrow, white-throated sparrow. This is the tree sparrow, which will be here for a little bit longer, but on its way up north. The white-crowned sparrow, and of course the song sparrow singing its little heart out there. So there's lots of different sparrows that you can find underneath your feeders right now as well. And when we're talking about different types of feeders, we do have some new ones that have just come out this year that I'll share with you. The first feeder is a water feeder, so it's different than other feeders that we've carried in the past. I just picked one of these up, so I'm excited to put it out and see what kind of things I get. We have it in two different sizes. This is the smaller size, and it's just like a hanging water cooler, basically. If you don't have the room for a bird bath, or you've got a bird bath, but you want something that maybe the smaller birds will use, these are great. So you fill it with water, and then the water will filter into this little tray here. So there's little holes there, and the water will trickle in to this little dish. So this is really good for smaller birds. It's going to be your goldfinches, chickadees. They'll love this shallow source of water here. So not your typical feeder. This is a water feeder. So something completely different than what we've had in the past. And if you do have a bird bath up, now is the time, now that we're getting a little bit of sun, maybe not as much as we'd like, but you can put your solar bird bath bubbler out. I'm always talking about these because I love these. When the sun hits the solar panel on the top of the bubbler, it will start the water moving. So you can make it be a little bubbler like this. You can put a little different insert on it that makes it more like a fountain spray. That's what I do in my backyard. And as soon as the sun hits it and that water starts moving, the birds are just drawn to it like crazy. So I love putting this out. This time of the year, the sun does have to be out and hitting it for it to work, which is the only downside, but there's no cords or anything on it. So you can just plop it in your bird bath and you're good to go. So in the past, the only ones we've had have had a whole bunch of cords. That one is totally cordless. So I like that about it as well. We do have some new feeders, just like we had that really beautifully patterned hummingbird feeder. The same company came out with these nicely patterned tube feeders, which I thought were different. They are not squirrel proof in any way, so I would definitely recommend only putting these out if you have a setup like a pole with baffle on it that will keep the squirrels away, because it is plastic and absolutely not squirrel proof, but it's pretty. So if you're looking for something a little bit different and more decorative in your yard, this is a brand new feeder that we have here. And this is going to be for your sunflower seed or a sunflower seed mix. Now you'll notice too, the perches aren't all that long. So this is probably going to be mostly for the smaller birds. So you're not going to really get cardinals on it, or blue jays or mourning doves. This is going to be more for chickadees and finches and that kind of thing. So those larger birds do need some more room in order to fit on the feeder. So if you're looking for something larger for them, we do of course have tray feeders, and the tray feeders are especially popular this time of the year because we're going to be getting those rose-breasted grosbeaks back. So they start to arrive around the same time as the Orioles do, so we should start hearing reports of them coming in next week. They'll come to the same types of feeders as your cardinals will, so having some kind of a tray or a tube feeder with large perches on it help attract those rose-breasted grosbeaks. So we have some brand new tray feeders in. This one is made of recycled materials. It's made from recycled plant fiber, so pretty cool. And it's only $21.95, so it doesn't have to be anything elaborate to get some of these really awesome birds coming to your yard. And if you are looking for something squirrel proof, we have the Squirrel Busters in, which are our best sellers as far as squirrel proof feeders go. But we did get a couple of new styles as well. So this one's kind of fun. This one looks like a mailbox. It says airmail, and it is squirrel proof. So if a squirrel gets on it, this shuts down. You can see the feeding port gets shut down there. So the birds can feed from it. It's got nice perching room, a whole bunch of big perching room, but the squirrels, as soon as they get on it, get denied. So a new feeder here, which is pretty cute, something very different, and it is squirrel proof. So we've got that. And then we have one other one too, which is neat. So this is a brand new one too, and this is the farmer's market. It says farmer's market open daily. And same idea, you've probably seen feeders like this before. Squirrel gets on it and denies them of the food. So a couple new squirrel proof feeders there. And then we also have some cute and fun different feeders too, like this one, which has been popular. It looks like a cat. So if you've got a cat lover, if your cats love watching the birds outside, this one's fun. This is for black oil sunflower seed, or you could put peanuts in it. It's got a mesh type of thing there, so you would fill it with something that's a larger type of seed. So you're going to put black oil sunflower in here for the most part. So those are some new and different feeders we have in the store. Some of you guys are on and looks like might have some questions. Let's see, Debbie says, good morning. Good morning, Debbie. Steve says, good morning. Thank you for the info. Sharon is saying, my husband has spotted very yellow goldfinches. Yes, the goldfinches are really turning yellow. I still have some that are a little patchy coming to my feeders, but they're definitely getting bright, bright gold. So that's a really exciting time of the year. Liz Brown says, does it matter what kind of oranges for the Orioles? My husband bought Cara oranges today, and I'm afraid the pinkish hue won't attract them, hoping the jelly will cancel that out if so. I don't think that should matter, as long as it's a citrusy, type of orange that has the same similar taste. I don't think the color will make that big of a difference. I'm not familiar with that specific type, but I think you would be okay with that. Randy says, good morning. Good morning, Randy. Good morning, Karen. Elaine is on. Bob says, good morning. Saw my little brown creeper going from tree to tree this morning. Also, Mama Bluebird still incubating. It's been 10 days from the first of 5 eggs laid and 5 days from the last egg laid. All right. So Bob has the bluebirds nesting and sitting on some eggs. So about a week from now, he might have some little nestlings there inside of the house. Lynn says, I had a brown thrasher too. So Lynn also had a brown thrasher in her yard, which is this bird right here. This is a photo sent in last year by Bob, who had one in his yard. Randy says, brown-headed cowbirds nearly every day for the past 7 days. Goldfinches by the flock, 7 to 10 every day too. So lots of goldfinch action. Ellen says, good morning, Liz from Virginia. They are dealing with the bird flu. Oh, yeah. Down in Virginia last year, they had some issues with some disease going around too. So hopefully it clears up quite soon. Carol says, how close together should you put houses? That's a really good question. It depends if they're for the same species or different species. With bluebirds, they recommend putting them very, very far apart if you're trying to attract more than one pair of bluebirds, like 100 yards away from each other. But honestly, who has that kind of room? So people have really good luck with having them even, 30, 50 feet away from each other. If you're trying to alleviate some competition between birds, they say to keep the houses anywhere between 5 and 15 feet apart. So you want them closer if you're, say, trying to attract the bluebirds and the sparrows are taking over a house. So you want to add a house to alleviate that competition. You want to have the house closer, like 5 or 15 feet nearby. I ship says happy Saturday, drink your tea, as the Eastern Toey would say. Mary Lynn says, will hummingbirds like the water feeder? Possibly. Hummingbirds tend to fly into water more so than perch at a bird bath and drink it. Not that they wouldn't drink from this little water feeder wherever I put it. Here it is. So it might be a little large for them, but if anything, I would say they'd probably like the solar bird bath insert better, because they do tend to fly through mist and to clean their feathers, and they'll drink as water's bubbling up. But this is more hummingbird size than, say, your typical bird bath. So they just might use it. I'm not totally sure. I'll keep you guys posted on what kind of birds I'm seeing on it. And I know a few people have picked up this feeder, so we'll see what the feedback is on it, on what kind of birds come to it. Mary Lynn says, love that tray feeder. Yes. Tray feeders will give you a real big diversity of different birds there. Kathy says, house sparrows are eating the jelly. Probably nothing can be done about that. That's a really good question. Probably not, unfortunately. There's no feeders out there that'll really keep the sparrows away, and anything use like that reflective tape, anything like that to scare sparrows away will scare everybody away. So unfortunately, there's nothing that can be done about that. Every once in a while, I'll get a sparrow that likes the jelly too. So the only thing I could think of is putting some other maybe cheaper seed somewhere else kind of further away. So they might go to that instead. But that won't keep them, away from your yard or anything like that. Shane says, hi, Liz. I'm working on a farm now and attracting birds for biodiversity. And I always hear an owl out and about. Do you have any tips or nest box recommendation for owl boxes? Yeah, so there are different types of owl boxes. We sell screech owl boxes here. So depending on what kind of owl it is, there's different types of boxes. So screech owl boxes are, they're quite large, but they're not as big as some other owl boxes. If you've ever seen a wood duck box, they're about that size. So that's the easiest one to put up if you have a screech owl. If you have something like a barred owl, there are boxes for them that are huge. So my recommendation for that would be to either get plans online or look online for a kit that you can put together. But they're quite large. So I'm not aware of anybody who's ever put out a barred owl house, but people do quite often put out screech owl boxes with some pretty good luck in attracting them. So especially if you're hearing them, I would recommend putting out a screech owl box. It looks like that's everybody's comments and questions today. On Tuesday, we'll be back with another broadcast where we will share more of your photos. A lot of you guys are sending in some awesome photos. We'll share more of those with you on Tuesday. If you have feeders that you need clean, drop them off today at the birdhouse until 3 p.m. and we will clean them up for you and call you when they are done. We'll keep you posted on just how many we get, just what we have done to ourselves here. And we'll see you on Tuesday with another update. And who knows, maybe there will be some Orioles in town by then. So we will keep you posted and we'll see you on Tuesday. Have a great weekend. Bye-bye.